Xal'atath is a sentient being of unknown origins who works very closely to the Void. Once she was bound to the dagger that had the same name, Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire. Xal'atath is truly ancient, dating back to the time of the old god's Black Empire. Theories are abound as to the nature of his creation. The more outlandish claim that the blade is the remains of a forgotten old god who was consumed by its kin, while other theories state that it is the claw of Yax'Haraz itself. Wherever the truth of its origin, the blade is infused with the old god's power. Legends state that it can even grant its wielder visions of the Black Empire, though doing so inevitably drives the viewer mad. After the Pantheon's Titanforge armies shattered the Black Empire and chained the old gods beneath Azeroth, Xal'atath remained free, changing hands many times over the millennia and sowing death and chaos wherever it went. Eventually, it found its way into the hands of a troll named Xando, an ambitious Gurubashi witch doctor ousted from his prestigious position by his rivals. Xal'atath easily twisted his mind, preying upon his anger and turning his thoughts of revenge into an obsession. Xal'atath guided Xando and his followers to a mound of black stone at the foot of the Zandalar Mountains. Though the Zandalari mystics had forbidden all trolls from approaching it, Xando believed it held the power to defeat his rivals. A belief that was only magnified when he learned that it was the remains of a powerful creature named Kitix. Xal'atath encouraged Xando to make blood offerings to Kitix, and the witch doctor butchered his companions in a profane ritual. At its conclusion, Xando plunged Xal'atath into Kitix's side. The beast awakened and rose once more, and Xando and his followers were never seen again. Kitix awakened the slumbering Akir and sent them to scour the surface of Azeroth, unleashing the full extent of Xal'atath's dark powers against the trolls. Though they would eventually defeat him and his insectoid armies, they never forgot the might of Xal'atath. Many tribes still whisper stories about the Black Blade that nearly brought them to extinction. At some point after the Great Sundering, and for a certain period of time, Xal'atath was in possession of the Naga. Thousands of years later, Xal'atath was brought to the sorcerer Tain Toruzian's wife, Modgud, by one of the Dark Iron Dwarves she employed to search for magical artifacts. An accomplished sorcerer in her own right, Modgud was immediately enraptured by the blade and spent several days in her chambers trying to discern its secrets. When she emerged, she sought out the dwarf who had brought it to her to thank him, but no one could find him, or even remember his name or face. Modgud wielded Xal'atath throughout the War of the Three Hammers, using it against the Wildhammer dwarves of Grim Batol and summoning shadowy apparitions from the dark corners of the fortress. Eventually, Kardos Wildhammer fought his way through the Dark Iron army and confronted Modgud herself. She reached for Xal'atath to defend herself, but found the blade inexplicably absent. Kadros struck her down with a single mighty blow from his hammer. As she lay dying, she repeated one phrase over and over. "You promised." Please do note the "you promised" part, it's gonna come back in soon. Following the First War, a human priestess named Natalie Xelin dedicated herself to studying the foul magics wielded by the orcs, knowing that knowledge of this power was key to fighting it. She heard stories of a dark blade that held sway over the shadows themselves. Troubled that such a blade could exist, she sought it out. As soon as she touched the dagger, Xal'atath spoke to her, and she immediately understood that it could not be destroyed. From it, she learned of the void and its interactions with the light. By the time of the Second War, she had not only learned how to wield shadow magic, but taught it to her followers, using its power in secret to wage war against the orcs. Xal'atath's maddening whispers took their toll on her sanity, though twisting her noble intentions into zealous fanaticism. She and her followers embraced shadow magic wholeheartedly, many even forsaking the light entirely. Though Selene urged caution, her pleas fell on deaf ears. In time, her followers decided that she was keeping the true secrets of shadow magic from them, murdering her in her sleep and taking Xal'atath. When the Burning Legion invaded Azeroth from the Broken Isles, the dwarven queen Moira Taurisian worked with the undead bishop Alonsus Fowl to search for weapons to fight them. Through double agents within the Twilight's Hammer, they learned the cult was using Xal'atath in some sort of unholy ritual in Tirisfal Glades. They sent a priest to investigate, discovering that the Twilight's Hammer had broken into the tomb of Tyr. Within, the Twilight Deacon Farthing was using the blade to attempt to reanimate Zakash the Corruptor, a Catrax who had once served Yogg-Saron alongside Kitix. Farthing turned Xal'atath's power against the priest, but when he began to lose the battle, the blade abandoned him. Calling him weak, it devoured his soul and told the priest to take hold of it. As the priest clutched the black blade, it whispered that the only way to ensure Zakash would never rise again was to use Xal'atath to devour its essence. The priest agreed, unfortunately, and as Xal'atath grew in power, they departed for the Broken Isles to do battle against the Legion. The priest ended up as the High Priest of the Netherlight Temple. The High Priest wielded Xal'atath against the Burning Legion for a time, ultimately draining much of its power to purge the Swordless of Argaris of its corrupting power in Citalus. They either lost or abandoned it thereafter. However, the blade of the Black Empire would fall into the hands of the Naga by the time the Horde and Alliance would start fighting again and, they attacked Kultiras and Zandalar. Collector Kojo came across the blade by accident near a makeshift altar in Stormsong Valley, and the adventurers sought to use it to gain insight into the Naga's plans. Xal'atath explained that the Naga sought to conjure a storm powerful enough to scour all Azeroth using 3 relics: the Void Stone, the Trident of Deep Ocean, and the Tempest Caller. Xal'atath guided the adventurer to Drusvar, where they found the High Elf Inanis attempting to wield the Void Stone's power. After killing her, Xal'atath drew upon the Void Stone's power and possessed Inani's corpse. Now, in a mortal form, she helped the adventurer find the other 2 relics and brought them to the Crucible of Storms beneath the Precipice of Oblivion. Rather than stopping the Naga, however, Xal'atath offered the relics and the adventurer to N'Zoth in exchange for her freedom. N'Zoth served her from the dagger, keeping it for himself in the bargain. Xal'atath departed through a portal, confident she would see the adventurer once more. Soon after, a Horde adventurer brought the severed dagger to Sylvanas Windrunner. Nathanos Blightcaller later held it as seas over Nazjatar parted beneath his vessel. After landing in Nazjatar, Nathanos, with the blade in hand, ventured away from the rest of the Horde forces in order to complete his secret mission. He delivered it into the hands of Queen Azshara, who later claimed that she had intended to use it against N'Zoth. However, her plans were interrupted by the Alliance and the Horde, and she was taken to Nyalota to be tortured by Dark Inquisitor Xanesh. She was eventually freed by Rathian and Azeroth's champions, and subsequently gave them the dagger so that they could use it against N'Zoth themselves. Rathian would later on stab the dagger into the old god's carapace, tearing it open in a massive blast of energy. The blade's whereabouts thereafter, if it remains intact at all, are unknown to us. Xal'atath would disappear after a while, and nobody would know what happened to her. But I think now it's time to discuss an artifact that is related to Xal'atath in an interesting way. This artifact is known as the Dark Heart, and originally it wasn't always named so. It was a relic belonging to Neltharion that was described by Chromie as looking similar to the Dragon's Soul, but even more ancient. It is believed by Khadgar and the Kirin Tor to have been a prototype for the Dragon's Soul that Neltharion ended up discarding. Well, during Dragonflight, Iridikron acquired the relic from the Earth Warder's cauldron on the Forbidden Reach, where Neltharion had hidden it even from his fellow aspects for millennia, which makes sense if you consider it a failed Dark Soul artifact. The vessel also contained the location of Aberrus, the secret laboratory for the Earth Warder, and, more specifically, the molten pool of lava that powered it. Once its location was deciphered by Vinaroth, the primal incarnate sent Firak to consume the elemental power below. Later, Iridikron traveled back in time with the help of the infinite Dragonflight and tried to use it to siphon Garkron's essence to reclaim a hunger lost to the ages. But it was stopped by the adventurers in Chromie, who ultimately destroyed it before it could finish draining it. While their attention was focused on Iridikron, Chrono Lord Deos was able to turn the proto-dragon Nosdormu into Morzondo way earlier, forcing Chromie to rewind time, this time choosing to save her aspect instead of defeating Iridikron, which allowed the incarnates to successfully complete the siphoning, and with Galakrond's primal power imbued into the relic, creating the Dark Heart. Iridikron then entered a void portal and met with Xal'atath, now known as the Harbinger, and handed her the artifact. Khadgar tried to find information about the artifact within Dalaran's libraries, but it was all in vain. Given Malygos' history with Neltharion, Kalik told him he would try to seek more information in the Azure archives. Later, Khadgar summoned Alleria Windrunner to Dalaran and asked her to investigate further about the Dark Heart and its mysterious wielder. Alleria pursued the Dark Heart by following the void rifts that it created. Other void elves would try to help to find clues and ways, but Alleria would find it by following the magical powers and the rifts created by the void across Northrend, starting at Galakron's Rest and leading to Ulduar. With information from Locust Walker, she was able to identify the Dark Heart's owner as Xal'atath, who would then start to torment Alleria, giving her visions of things that happened in the past, of her rejecting becoming the Ranger General of Silvermoon, of her lover Turalyon basically betraying her, proving that Alleria was weak and she did not have the mettle, the fortitude to strike down Turalyon. And luckily, the Locust Walker came in and managed to save her. Later on, as the Song of Azeroth was starting to be heard, people were curious what it meant. And so everybody congregated to Dalaran, where after Magni got hurt and then got better, he told people of this ancient continent, Khazalgar, and that it was burning and it needed their help. And so Dalaran was prepared to take flight and teleport over the new continent. But first, there were some things that were needed to be done. Besides telling the inhabitants of Dalaran to secure their belongings and be prepared for the teleportation, 3 wards were necessary to be powered so that it would secure Dalaran. And so as everything was prepared, Alleria was looking for Khadgar because she could hear the voices from Xal'atath. She could hear her in her mind. And there she found a trusted friend, a companion, old mage of the Kirin Tor that has always stood by the side of Khadgar and everybody in Dalaran, who turned out to be Xal'atath. And then the Nerubians attacked. Khadgar went to confront Xal'atath. Xal'atath was empowering the Dark Heart by symphonying the powers of the city, thanks to the wards empowered by the adventurers. Khadgar would try to defeat her, but she was too powerful even for the Guardian himself. She would then use the Dark Heart to destroy the city of Dalaran and imprison Khadgar into the Dark Heart. Luckily, Dalaran would crash on Khazalgar and many people would survive, many would die, but during this whole process, Alleria would hunt for Xal'atath, alone, maddening, making it her goal to defeat her. Xal'atath was with Ansurek, the Nerubian queen, in the City of Threads when she was about to deliver her speech for Ascendance Day. Knowing that Alleria Windrunner and her companions were watching, she taunted the ranger, causing her to fire an arrow at her and blow their cover. The Nerubians then mobilized to protect their queen and captured the would-be assassins. They chased them to a waterfall where Alleria told Anduin and an adventurer to jump off to escape, while she stayed behind. Surrounded, Xal'atath approached Alleria and continued to taunt her about how she always pushes away the ones closest to her to pursue the hunt and her growing body count in her mission to stop her. She encouraged Alleria to embrace her true self, but the ranger remembered the voices of those closest to her and rejected the Harbinger. She punched Xal'atath, knocking her back, and leaped off the waterfall to meet her friends. Later on, Lillian Voss Ikti, an agent of the Widow, and an adventurer discovered Queen Neferes and what happened to her, and Xal'atath's implication in that. For that, we have this beautiful cinematic.
Slender is the strand that guides our destiny, known only by true sacrifice. In our kingdom of Azj-Kahet, no one understood this sacrifice more than Queen Neferes, my mother. I saw this when the Black Empire came to conscript us for their last stand at Ny'alotha. My mother refused them.
For this treachery, your line will sever itself. This kingdom will wither with the waning of your worth.
Her strength defined us that day. And in that moment, we felt destined for greatness. But in the years that followed, our greatness was tarnished. Look at them out there. Wretched, starving.
I am not immune to our people's suffering. I believe better days will come.
Not if you keep failing to seize the moment. What was the point of you freeing our future, only to leave us buried in the past?
You comprehend so little. There is much for you to learn before you can be queen.
Mother! Mother!
Zarek? Are you seeing this?
You have heard my voice in your dreams, Great Queen.
The Harbinger.
Yes, of the empire that was. But the old gods are dead. The empire lies in ashes. And a shadow has fallen on your kingdom. But the blood of the old gods can make your people powerful again. Your reign could last for eternity. All you have to do is take my hand.
Your words are tempting, but the cost is too great. I would never risk my kingdom for such power.
Mother, who are you talking to?
Oh, ghosts, dearest. As always, they are my ready counsel.
I'm not sorry for what I said. I only want our people to be great once more.
Greatness is fleeting. What we must do now is endure. Your time will come, child, but only when you are ready. What have you done?
You're not the only one seeing ghosts, Mother.
How sad to have a queen so wise, and yet so ignorant to the call of destiny.
You.
Her name is Xal'atath. You had your chance, Mother. With this power, Ashkahet is unbound. We will rise. We will conquer. And together, we will finally claim our destiny.
Long live Queen Azeroth.
Once the hero discovered that Queen Neferes was this abomination, this mutated Hulk in front of them, they tried to free her, or better said, Yichti tried to free her before Xal'atath came and started to control her, and turned her against her allies. Then Xal'atath decided to make her move and ordered an Erubian army to attack the Aegis Wall while she went to the Priory of the Sacred Flame. Alleria felt something was wrong and detected that the black blood was moving towards the priory. She also heard the voice of Khadgar. She headed there on board the Dawnbreaker with Anduin and Farrelly and Lothar and of course an adventure, while the others pushed back the Nerubian army. They found that Xal'atath had engulfed the priory in shadow and lit the braziers to drive it back. They then encountered Neferis guarding the priory and fought the Broken Queen, until Anduin realized she was trying to resist Xal'atath's command and decided to subdue her instead of killing her, and everybody agreed with that. Ferine remained outside and held off Xal'atath's forces, while Alleria went inside the chapel to confront the Harbinger. Inside, they saw Xal'atath channeling Beladar into the Dark Heart. She commented that mortals are the most wrathful creatures in existence, and how she observed their many deeds, noting that their hunger for violence was insatiable. Alleria realized Xal'atath lured them here to fuel the Black Blood, and decided to end her plot. She took aim at Xal'atath, who noted that she couldn't kill her. But Alleria revealed she was aiming at something else, and fired at the Dark Heart. Xal'atath tried to protect the relic, but the arrow hit it, cracking it, and that caused its power to leak. Furious, Xal'atath told her it changed nothing, and teleported away, but not before an injured raven flew through the portal and transformed back into Khadgar. And finally, her last appearance is after the Severed Threads, when the allies launched an attack on Nerubar Palace. Well, I'll let the cinematic speak for it as the ending of the video. Like, comment, subscribe, you know.
Slender is the strand that guides your destiny. So easily overlooked, yet cutting deeper than the sharpest blade. Shh. It's almost over. Your ambition was rare, you know. Yet despite even betraying your own mother, here you are.
You promised
Nothing. Yet I gave you everything. You were just not enough.
Don't you pity me?
I don't. You were a means to an end. Your survival wasn't necessary. I simply wish you had lasted a little longer. And now you learn the true lesson of the Void. Only the strongest survive.